Hey, this is IndigoMusic.com, and it's time for the fourth episode of IndigoMusic.com and the Indus Entrepreneurs Bangalore chapter presents Founders Frequency. And joining me today are two very special guests. First, I would like to introduce Smita, who is a managing director at Startup Genome. Smita, good morning. Welcome to IndigoMusic.com.
Morning, Rohit. How are you?
I'm doing great. How have you been?
I've been all right, thank you.
Fantastic.
And end of Jan, where we're going so quickly, but we are.
Absolutely. Already 28 days, almost 30 days in the month of January. We're done with 30 days of 2025. And, joining me is another special guest, Vaibhaw Dwivedi, who is the co-founder and CEO of Proleri. Vaibhaw, welcome once again to Founders Frequency.
Thank you so much, Rohit. And thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting one because both of you, what you do is interesting. I want to start off with Smita. Smita, you've been a charter member with Thai Bangalore chapter. Tell me, how's it been so far, and what are some of the milestones that you have achieved with Thai?
So I've been with Thai now for about 4 years. A fairly recent entrant, I would say, though I've been with the startup ecosystem for quite a few years. Starting my career in Bangalore, moving to Bombay, and subsequently quite a few years in the UK before I got back. When I got back, I looked and I saw that when I started my career versus what's happening today was phenomenal, the change. And I had been fairly instrumental in ensuring that the startup ecosystem was reached out to and supported. And that interested me quite a lot. And having been a successful founder with a couple of exits, I thought, this would be a good chance for me to find out what's happening in the industry, plus to also, lend support and share whatever I could with my fellow entrepreneurs. And that's how I started off with Thai. Initially as a charter member for a few years. Subsequently, then for the next few years, I've been on the board for Thai Bangalore. Milestones have been plenty. And no matter how long you've been an entrepreneur, every day with the tech ecosystem, there's something new to learn. It's just evolving fantastically. And the learning experiences you get are incredible. So Thai being a central part of this ecosystem sort of is the area where, most startups tend to gravitate towards.
Fantastic. Well, there's so much to learn because earlier this morning I was in conversation with another company from Hong Kong, and they were making brews from bread that would otherwise go waste from the bakery. And Viba, your company, which is Proleri, is also something which is doing a fabulous work, especially it's let me for those who don't know about the company, let me just tell you it's they're basically taking agricultural waste, specifically leaves, and they're converting it into high quality leaf protein called RuBisCO, if I'm right, Vaibhav. Tell me, how did this idea come about? And you, of course, I think you quit your corporate job, do this full time. Tell me what went through your mind when you were taking this decision to do this full time? And two, tell me more about your company.
So the decision actually happened back in July of 2021. At that point of time, I've had a corporate career for about 15 years. So I started off in merchant navy. I've sailed on merchant navy ships for a couple of years.
Okay.
And then I've spent about 13 years working in Genpact and Uber. Right since the time that I'd taken up a formal job, a corporate job, I'd always known that I wanted to do something of my own. I wanted to start an organization. Startup was a less of a buzzword when back then, right? But at least I knew that I wanted to do something of my own. One of the areas that my co-founder and I both are extremely, extremely passionate about is food security. And what we started off in 2021 is we became farmers. So we started our own hydroponic and organic farms. We ran the farms in Hyderabad, did that for a couple of years. I would say one of the most fulfilling things that you can do is become a farmer and get your own farm and just spend time on the farm, right? Like absolutely enjoyed, loved that I'm doing that. What we realized during that journey was that we wanted to do something which is far more scalable as well. And we experienced firsthand the amount of waste that we were creating on our farms. And as luck would have it, in early of 2023, we came across this concept of leaf protein RuBisCO. Both of us are from non-technical backgrounds, so we didn't necessarily know this ourselves.
Yeah.
But the moment we came across this concept, and then we were thinking, on one side, we are seeing the amount of waste leaves that all farmers, including us, were throwing away. And the other side, the same leaves have this high quality protein, which is yet to be tapped commercially. That's where the idea just clicked, the light bulb just went off. And we were like, we have to spend more time doing it. We spent about 3-4 months speaking to specialists, scientists, to see where the research was, how much scope was there. And with all of that information, we committed fully to this vision of Proleri. Proleri was founded in September of 2023. And one of the feedback that we get is the hardest thing that we've done is we've named the company as Proleri, which doesn't necessarily make it very easy for people to pronounce the
Yeah,
name. It's
yeah.
an easy one to get used to, but yeah, that's the journey in brief. That's how we started.
What does Proleri mean, though?
So Proleri actually is it doesn't mean itself in a word, but it's a combination of protein and oleri culture. Oleri culture is the art of growing any leaves and vegetables and fruits from the oleri culture source is what we were aiming towards when we called ourselves Proleri.
Right. From merchant navy to now, extracting protein from leaves. I think it should have been a challenging journey. Tell me some of the challenges that you faced earlier, like, when it was in the inception stage.
So one of the first things that we had to do, so I'll take a step back, right? We are a technology first company. One of the first things that we had to do was to create the technology to extract protein from these leaves. And because we are still so clear that we wanted to be a waste to value business, our technology had to be diverse enough to work with multiple varieties of leaves. We can't just say we take broccoli leaves and we can work with broccoli leaves. We have to be able to work with multiple leaves. So the first challenge was to assemble the team that has the technical know-how to build that. And that was the first one for. I would at this point also share that we are incubated at Aspire Bionest inside the University of Hyderabad. And
Okay.
they have been absolute fantastic partners for us, not just giving us a space along with the equipment that we could have never invested in buying ourselves.
Yeah.
So big shout out to them. Also, just the entire group at Aspire Bionest has helped us even in terms of getting the right talent as well as technology. So a big challenge for us was to convince ourselves as well as the people we were speaking to that we can build a technology which is novel from India, which is
Yeah.
not necessarily the most known for it. I'm happy to share that we've developed the technology, we filed patents for it, and we
Mm.
are well on par to receive our first patents. I would say the first and biggest challenge was to get over that hurdle for ourselves as well as for our stakeholders.
Right now, Smita, I want to ask you, you've been in the entrepreneurial space for quite some times, and you've also been angel investing as well. So tell me, where do you see, a company like, for example, Vaibhav's Proleri, especially in this time when a lot of people, like I know a lot of my friends who've gone, like the plant-based, and they were hardcore non-vegetarians, and now they've gone vegetarians because the social impact when it comes to, saving animals and things like that. Where do you see a company like Proleri? Where do you see this grow, Smita?
Rohit, I think that's a very amazing question that you've asked because there is a whole world of truth in it. The world has gone from being local to mass,
Yeah.
right? Consumerism has expanded beyond belief, and despite very visible signs of this is not right for the world, right? From the holes in the ozone layer through global warming, through the fact that pretty much everybody in the US is intolerant of something, right? Nuts,
Yeah.
lactose, other human beings, other color, I mean, jokes apart. But there is a very real problem today in that our over cultivation and our over consumption of products that are not indigenous to humans is causing a problem, is causing a big problem both internally to humans as well as to the world, right? And there are a growing section of people who are slowly becoming aware of it. Media is doing a good job of, ensuring that there is some focus on it. But I think on their own, the new generations have started to wake up and realize that this can't go on. We've
Yeah.
only got planet once. We've got to save it. We've got to save ourselves. And it is good to yourself and to the world to start looking at reducing consumption, this overconsumption that we're doing of everything, including meat, and starting to consume what occurs naturally, including, plants and vegetables. And I think this ethical movement, this sustainability initiative that is picking up across the world will eventually see companies like Proleri becoming mainstream. Right now, they're fairly niche, but I think eventually they will become part of what everyday consumption is going to be. And I think there's a big potential for this to happen if done in the right way, because again, there is danger there too, right? Everything becomes overconsumed, so that if this fanaticism towards even becoming vegan or becoming vegetarian then causes overproduction and overconsumption will still go off the rails. But I think eventually if we're able to mind ourselves and live consciously, I think that's the word, conscious consumerism, then, and that is what that is what companies like Proleri bring to to the world. From both an investment as well as a consumer perspective, whichever way I look at it, I can only see that companies like Proleri having a great future ahead. More and more people will start getting into this from when I've been looking at investing, which is a good 6 years ago to now. I already see the big change in the number of people who are genuinely interested. Commercialism is one thing, but they're genuinely interested in doing this for the right reasons, and I think those are the companies that will succeed.
Right. And Vaibhav, I want to ask you, how hard is it for you as the brand custodian or as the founder of a brand to convince someone, like when you say protein from leaves, right? It sounds like it's not possible. Because when you think about protein, the first thing that comes to your mind, especially if someone's going to the gym, they're into bodybuilding, it's whey protein, isolates, and or chicken, it can be paneer, but from leaves. How hard is it for you to explain, or do people get it?
So we are a B2B ingredient company.
Correct.
The task that I haven't had to do, thankfully, I would say so far, is to convince and communicate to the customers. So
Right.
at this point, I'll also say that we are one of the 5 companies in the world, I would say 4, which are more progressed, who are now on the verge of getting an ingredient into the market. And what typically happens in a food product world is that a new ingredient is brought to the market, and then the product companies will make products from the ingredient. So
Mm.
we potentially are going to be one of the first companies in the world to have a leaf protein isolate made available. We are making it available to the food product companies.
Okay.
Now, interestingly, I'll actually build upon what Smita said. When we started off in 2023 early, because that's when we were doing our own Reiki with product companies, is there a need for the protein like that? We
Right.
actually had to tell the companies of what RuBisCO is and how is it different from some of the other proteins that are out there. I'm actually very happy to tell you that actively reached out to companies. Most of the companies are aware of leaf protein RuBisCO. Now, these are companies, I'm categorizing it because it is in
Yeah.
their business to know which proteins exist. I think from a consumer awareness perspective, it's going to be another step that the companies will take towards educating. I would say it is going to be a journey for the companies to educate as well. What is good is that because the protein is available naturally in all the leaves and all of us are consuming it every day as part of our diets. As Smita said, we are not introducing or mining a new source completely.
Mm.
This is something that we are already eating as part of our daily diets. It's a concentrated form of that. And therefore, potentially, it's an easier thing to understand for the consumers as well. But I can tell you just the food formulators, the product technicians, they are technologists, they are very well aware of the leaf protein right now and are willing to work with us. Multiple companies are currently working with us for developing products based on our protein.
Right. Now, Vaibhav, you took a big leap. You quit your corporate job and started your own, your own company. For someone who's aspiring to do the same, someone who's want to enter the entrepreneurial world, what are the maybe 2 to 3 things that they need to be ready for?
And I'm saying this purely because I've been on the other side of the table, right? A
Yeah.
lot of the people who are in the corporate world and jobs right now, their big motivation to start their own company is to say, if I have to do so much of work, I might as well do it for myself. That goes out of the window about 6 months to 9 months because just the problem that you have at hand is very different. So I would say do the jump for the right reasons and not for reasons as if yes, I would want to build something of our own because I'm already working 5 days, 14 hours. I might as well do something of my own. So that's a wrong reason to do it. So have the why very clearly sorted as to why you would want to do it. Second is always understand that you're completely underestimating the time that it will take for you to build something. Um, I was guilty of that. When I moved out of my job, I actually gave myself 2 to 3 years. That is the time that I would take. Again, comes from corporate background. You give yourself a time. Understand you're underestimating. Companies, especially good businesses, takes decades to build. At least 1 decade to build something that you can really say that you are proud of and you build. So having the why sorted, be in this for the longer term is very, very important. I would say the last bit is just simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, as it is said, right? If you're able to state what you want to do very clearly to 5 people who are not your friends, not your peers, and validate your idea to a certain extent. I'll just take another probably 5 seconds. I don't take going a little over. When I went into farming for the
Mm.
first year from 2020 early to mid 2021, we ran the farm and we wanted to test whether people will pay for the veggies and fruits that we are growing. So in our own society, we on the Telegram channel, we used to roll out a sheet. During the week, people used to place orders. Every Sunday morning, we used to pick our car, go to the farm, come back, bring the vegetables and deliver ourselves to the respective households to validate that there was actually a need for what we are trying to build. So it's very important to validate to a certain extent before you're taking the plunge, because otherwise it can just seem too rosy in theory.
If there's no buyer, there's no point of the product.
Validate the consumer problem, and yes, that there's a paying customer there.
Yeah. Now, what about you, Smita? What do you have to say with your vast experience in the entrepreneurial world?
Smiling when Vaibhav said his first thing, right? He's going to start with why you shouldn't be doing it. And it reminded me of a saying I read somewhere that says entrepreneurs are willing to work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week for someone else.
Yeah.
Right, so that's really what you're doing. It's not easy by any means. It's always a long journey. A lot of the overnight success that you hear about has taken years to happen. Right, everybody's put in a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of stress. Everybody's put in a lot of effort, but also a lot of motivation. For me, my entrepreneurial journey happened when I was relatively young. I think it was something that I have known that I've wanted to do. And it happened naturally. I was working in a management consulting firm. I was talking to somebody else about a gap in the market, and we both realized, hey, look, why don't we walk the talk? Rather than telling people, which is what most management consultants do, they advise people, right? I'm saying let's just stop giving advice and start working towards it, and really, that's when you become a real entrepreneur. Is when you stop talking about an idea and actually start the idea. So if you're really passionate about something, you have something that you feel makes a difference to the world, and it really has to be as big as that, right? If you feel that you're doing something that needs to be done, and you have what it takes to get it done, that's when you really need to take the plunge and plunge into it fully. It's literally like jumping into the ocean, just start swimming and keep at it. And when I started my first company, which was a digital agency back in the day, quite a few people, because of the dot-com boom and the subsequent digital wave that took off, a lot of people could started the same thing. So at some point in time, there must have been at least 10 to 12 companies doing what I did. But we were successful and stayed on top because we persevered. While things were hard, when things went slow, we continued. We just had the faith in the business. We said, this is what we're going to do. Yes, there are good times and bad times, but perseverance really is, I feel, what really led to our success. So success is really the amount of time you're putting into your entrepreneurial journey. Yes, there is playing smart, but I think also playing long and hard.
Well said, Smita. Now, you've been also an angel investor. So tell me, what is the worst pitch you've ever heard?
No worst pitches. It's just people who come unprepared. I think the worst I've had was somebody put in, I guess, too much merit on himself. Did not really, hadn't done a great deal of research on the idea, hadn't done a great deal of research into what the market wants, didn't really have an idea of what the product is going to look like, and said, "Oh, this is what I have done. These are my 10 companies that I've worked in, and this is why you should invest in me." At the end of it, I walked out saying, "What is this guy doing? Why is he even wanting to do this?" But everybody else, I think, they come in very earnest, but everybody needs to put in their research. And
Well, it's so much to learn every day when it comes to the entrepreneurial world. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has their ups and downs in their whole journey. And that's exactly what we do here at Founders Frequency. Vaibhav and Smita, thank you so much for taking some time out and, getting in a conversation with me. All the best with all your future endeavors and have a wonderful day ahead.
Thank you.
thanks, Rohit. You too.